It is February 28th, 2024, and this is Tabletop Throwdown. I'm Mike Dunn, and tonight we've got Dan Hinken and Mark Julian back again, my co-hosts. And let's start with the news.
The news.
The news.
All right, so Wizards of the Coast halts production for Magic the Gathering and Dungeons and Dragons in Portuguese. This is despite Brazil having the second largest economy in the Americas and the 9th in the world. D&D books are going to stop after they publish Fizban's Treasury of Dragons, Journeys Through the Radiant Citadel, and Dragonlance Shadow of the Dragon Queen, while Magic the Gathering stops after Modern Horizons 3. So yeah, this is Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro seeding a very large market. It doesn't make sense to me. I mean, maybe they're doing worse off than we thought.
Well, it seems to me like it's a weird time to do it. I mean, I guess I could see it on both sides. I mean, they're coming out with the new stuff at the end of the year. Maybe they just don't want to invest with those, but at least with the Dungeons and Dragons. But I just, you look at markets and you look at trying to get product in as many hands as possible, and I can't imagine that it would take a lot to get a translation. I could probably sit down with Google Translate and in a couple of days and get that done and get it into people. So I don't know if it's a just distribution thing, if it's there's not as many buyers, but it seems like it's a great market to get that product into, and a lot of people to get more product and different ideas in front of. So I don't know. It just doesn't make sense all the way for me.
Yeah, you have to wonder with the kind of contracting that's happening across, our hobby, the video game hobby, whether this is some cost saving, in the D&D space to offset, expenses or losses in another area of Hasbro's business, which is massive.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Definitely interesting.
Well, according to their press release or their announcement a few days ago on this, the excuse they're giving is that Portuguese language product sales have not kept pace with rising costs across the board. That's why they're making the difficult decision. They will continue to produce products in English, French, German, Italian, Japanese, and Spanish. Yeah, it doesn't make much sense. Like they're really going on and on about how they want to keep on making more money with it. I don't know. Well, and like I'd be really curious as to what's happening in Brazil, right? Like,
yeah,
are people just not buying D&D products like they used to? Also, yeah. I saw a tweet from the Forgotten Realms wiki, which is a huge wiki resource for all the Forgotten Realms lore and locations and characters. They stated that the number 3 language of visitors to their site is in fact Portuguese. And then the other part of this is just like a few years ago, I don't know exactly when, but they actually revoked a third-party publisher license in Brazil so they could self-publish in Brazil. So maybe that's a bridge burned. Maybe, I don't know. It's getting a lot of outrage. There's a lot of people upset about this right now.
Well, and the only other thing I can think of is, I feel like D&D has become part of the mainstream, in the last few years, and have they gone too far and they're trying to put more money or try to save costs to put more emphasis on, we talked about a stage play, getting into the video media. Are they trying to find those cost cutting things so that they can put more money into some of these other ventures that are going to make them more money. I don't know.
Yep.
It's a sacrifice we'll have to make for a second D&D movie.
That first one was pretty good. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think they're going to do that either. It's
Makes too much sense.
Yeah. This is just a really, really puzzling move, considering that they're on the verge of releasing like a whole new edition of books, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe we'll hear some more about it, like in digital form. Like that's the thing; they could at least keep it going digitally.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
They own D&D Beyond, and yeah, it doesn't. It's weird.
Yeah.
All right, next up. Villainous Jurassic World and Jaws board game designers form new studio after Funko Games layoffs. We have to credit Chase Carter at Dicebreaker for this news. I was pretty happy to see this. The Funko Games like dissolving, like they basically a few years ago they bought Prospero Hall, and they've done a lot of the games for like Villainous, Jurassic World, Jaws, like a lot of I think they did Rear Window, like they basically turned around this idea of licensed games being bad. Like they made some really good licensed games.
Absolutely.
And it's kind of, I was kind of sad to see that news when it came up. So yeah, Chris Rollins, Isaiah Vallejo, and Corby Sears, formerly of Funko Games, will act as Tempest Workshop's co-founders and directors.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this. I've actually reviewed quite a few of their games for the sites. You know, these, I got to do E.T., Rear Window. I was looking at the Goonies game, which is kind of like a pseudo RPG kind of one versus all kind of game.
I've played that one. It's good.
Yeah. I'm also looking at animated as we speak, looking at the Disney stuff. But what I love about the care and the way that they look at these IPs and not just trying to make a money grab, but they take the care and they look into, little details that are going to make the fans be like, oh yeah, that's a great piece. Even the box design, they take the care to wrap the entire inside of the box with some great visual arts, or turning the instruction manual into a magazine that looks like it came from the time period. I don't know. I just thought their eye for the design for the entire, from start to finish, as well as fun games that are being played. I am really excited that these guys are still getting together and getting their creative minds together. Because I've just been a fan aesthetically, and they've been really good hits with my family. Bringing them out and getting them to the table. So.
Yeah, I feel like Rear Window is kind of like the apotheosis of the Funko, what they brought to it, like Funko Games. That was so wonderfully thematic and just like it worked so well that I ended up like ordering a Hitchcock box set of movies just so that I could watch it again, because I hadn't seen Rear Window in years.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's pretty special. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, they were quoted as saying, "We have a chance to build a brand new studio from the ground up that shares DNA with where we came from, but that also looks ahead with newfound vision and 3 core values: being human, creating together, and having moxie." They're also going to bring a bunch of people on board who also lost their jobs at Funko Games. So it really sounds like they're really just kind of trying to recreate Prospero Hall in a new studio. We've seen this happen quite often on the video game side. So I think it's kind of cool that I'm seeing it on the tabletop side, right? Like, big corporate Activision or EA like entity decides, nope, we're killing the studio. We're gonna pillage it and get our tax write-offs, and then the heads of the studio go off and form something new. That's how we got the designers of the original Call of Duty games, who ended up doing Titanfall and the Jedi Survivor games. So
interesting to see what kind of original stuff they come out with, because I assume as a kind of new small studio, it's probably harder to land those IP deals. So
right,
I think whatever kind of original content they come out with, excited to see what it is, because like you said, the stuff they did for the IPs was just really cool, really well thought out. So who knows where they'll go from here.
They didn't announce any actually. They actually didn't announce any new titles when they made this announcement. It is highly possible that they end up taking some of that magic and like working for other publishers, right? With other IPs. I would think that would be the way they would potentially handle that. But I agree. I think it'd be cool to see something totally original and new from them. They definitely have the chops for it.
For sure.
All right, next up. This is kind of a follow-up from last week. Gamefound in the news once again. This is, I think this is starting to pick up some steam. It's like a slow cook up until Simon made their announcement. But Gamefound and Gale Force 9 enter into exclusive crowdfunding agreement for 3 new projects. This is just more prominent game publishers moving away from Kickstarter and onto Gamefound. Pretty cool. I mean, I think Gale Force 9 has been a little hit or miss lately, but they had a huge success with like the Firefly 10th Anniversary Edition on Gamefound recently. This is the same story that we had with Simon. They had a huge success with Masters of the Universe on Gamefound. Like, they're dipping their toes in the water. They're liking how the water feels, and they're coming back for more.
Excited to see Gale Force 9 just go all in on Dune and Dune again and more Dune.
Well, all right. So they kind of did that already, and they came out with like it was like a version of the old school Dune game. So they did the old school Dune game, which was cool. Love it. Happy to have that new edition. Then they came out with like another version of the game that tied in a little bit better with the movie, but was kind of like the old school game with training wheels. And
Baby Dune.
We call it Baby Dune. That was a little disappointing. And then they had like some like filler game that really, really fell flat on its face. I can't even
Doom
remember.
Betrayal.
Doom. Was that you who reviewed that?
I did not, but I was there when we played it, and I felt betrayed.
Yeah, it was a betrayal to us. Yes. So, but again, like, they've come out with good games in the past.
Yeah.
I in particular, I like their Spartacus game, Blood and Sand. But the first game that they're going to do is coming soon to Gamefound. It's The Adventures of Conan. Yes, it's Conan the Barbarian, 2 to 4 player asymmetrical dice game. And then they're going to follow that later in the year with Star Trek Ascendancy, and then, Mark, just for you, Dune, Kwisatz Haderach in early 2025.
More.
Personally, I think we should have it now. Like Dune 2, I actually just saw it. I saw an advanced screening. It's amazing. Not going to get into it right now, but it seems like they're missing the boat there. But we could get a third Dune movie. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think it's always good to see, like we said last week, it's the platform that's made for gamers, and I think Gale Force 9 has kind of a wide variety of products that they've got out there. A lot of different groups of people from their miniatures games. I know, they have the tank miniatures, and then they also have terrain things and different people coming that way. So. Star Trek Ascendancy, I have not actually played it, but I'm still very interested in it and to see where they're taking that, just being different factions and kind of a mission based game. So it's just good things for Gamefound. But like we said, we love Gamefound, and it's a platform for gamers. I'm excited to see where they take it. Yeah.
I actually have a little bit of clarity on those second two titles. The Star Trek Ascendancy series is a definitive collector's edition of the games that they've already come out with, and the Kwisatz Haderach Dune is a complete edition of that re-implementation of the original plus all 3 expansions.
Okay.
Yeah, so nothing new for you, Mark. I'm
so
sorry.
It's big box. It's big box, big Dune.
Yeah. Now, I mean, if they deluxify it in some way, like, if I get an animatronic maker that I can put on my table, and squeeze water of life out of, but that would be super cool. I don't think that's going to happen, but
yeah, not the phallic looking miniatures from Dune Imperium Uprising.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's pretty clear we're going to see a lot more Dune in general from multiple places coming up.
What?
All right. Well, so that kind of wraps up our news for tonight. I do want to make one more announcement. We are going to actually take next week off. There will not be an episode of Tabletop Throwdown next week. That it's not because it's not because we don't want to. It's just we're going to be doing something else. We're going to be at Gamma Expo. And we're going to be getting lots of great coverage. We've got a great lineup of meetings, and we're going to get we're going to talk to a lot of industry professionals and get their opinions on some things for some upcoming episodes of Tabletop Throwdown. Until then, we do have a great topic for you on this episode. We're going to go into a deep dive about deck builders. We're going to talk about deck builders, but before that, let's get a word from our sponsor in. Hey there, Mike Dunn, Editor-in-Chief of Tabletop, and I've got something very special to tell you about. It's a new crowdfunding campaign from Gooey Cube. It's called The Tomb of Gyzengax. It's a tribute to Gary Gygax and many of the legends that created the wonderful game that we all love to play. The link is right down here. Go hit it up, back it. You can't go wrong. Okay, so our topic this week is deck builders. It's more than just a mechanic. It's a whole genre of game. And that has been probably one of the most popular ways to hybridize a game in modern game design to boot. But we'll get to all that. Let's talk about the history of deck builders before we really kind of get started on some of the individual games. Dan, why don't you get that ball rolling?
Yeah. Well, when we think about deck building is really some very basics. I feel like a lot of deck building games, you're really going to be starting out with a basic deck. And most deck builders are self-contained, meaning that we're not going outside. It's not something like a trading card game or an LCG, a living card game, or an expandable card game where you're feeling like you're going and pre-building decks or doing different things. You're building everything within a game. And so usually players will start off with the exact same cards as they start off the game. Usually those cards are coming with the form of one's going to be fighting or one's going to be giving resources. And throughout the game, you're going to be buying decks from a market or some other certain spots and adding them into your hand. And so then as your deck runs out, you reload your discard pile, and some of these new cards are going to start to come up and help you out in different ways depending on what game you're playing. There's usually a mechanic on how to get cards out of your deck, and it's usually per people who are, whatever the goal is. Sometimes it's getting a certain amount of points, sometimes it's destroying bases, it's different things, but you're using your deck and you're hoping to get cards that synergize with each other so that you can reach the goal faster than your opponent. A lot of deck builders are one versus one. Some of them are more players. It just depends on the style that you are, but those are kind of the basics of what a lot of deck building is. And I think that really the deck builders really started a little bit ago with one that a lot of people have played, which is Dominion. And I think Mark is going to talk a little bit about what Dominion is and how that's really brought.
Yeah, that was the first big one. I personally have not played Dominion, but it's definitely has been presented as the foundational deck builder.
Yeah, so Dominion is known as the first deck builder, the first game to not only just use that mechanic, but that is the game. The entire game is about deck building. If there was another one before that somebody designed, let us know. You should have published it. Dominion is the first one that was published.
Well, so I'm looking at Wikipedia right now.
Oh no, call me a liar.
Oh no! Technically, StarCraft, the board game, was the first deck building game developed in 2007, but Dominion was the first popular deck building game that set the standard for the genre.
Well, to be fair, he started developing it in 2003. So
there you go.
Anyway, Dominion is all about deck building. That is the entire game. So later on, we're going to talk about some hybrid stuff, some different things, different ways that deck building is used. Dominion is deck building. And if you Google Dominion, you're going to see that there are so many expansions for it.
Yeah.
And one of the things that does is you can really tailor it to be the game that you want to be. So if you want to play a game that has more player interaction, you can include cards that are going to give you that. If you don't like player interaction, you just want to do your thing while I do my thing, and we don't affect each other, you can just use cards that do that. So you can kind of tailor the experience to how you want. But it really is that core mechanic that Dan just described, where everyone starts with the same cards. There's a market of all of the different cards you can add. And then on your turn, you're buying cards. They go into your discard pile. Once your draw pile runs out, you shuffle your discard and you keep drawing. So that's those cards that you bought are now in your deck that you can have access to them. And Dominion.
Wait, quick question.
Yes.
Would the purging of cards, with the actually like scrapping a card out of your deck, is that one of the core mechanics as well, or is that something that came along later?
That's typically a core mechanic, sometimes called purging, sometimes called thinning. Typically, those cards you start with are not very good, so you get better cards, and then you want to try and get rid of the bad cards. They don't clog up your hand. You want to try and string those combos together. And that's one of the things that makes deck building so interesting, is because it's an inherently player-driven experience where I created this deck. My decisions, the cards that I chose to buy and add to my deck. Maybe I made bad decisions and I was just gobbling up cards every opportunity I had, and now my deck is doesn't work well together. It's clogged with a bunch of junk. Or I made really smart decisions and then I'm just rolling through turns, super powerful each time because I made good decisions. And you can kind of refine that as you learn the game and play. In Dominion, it's so mechanically boiled down to just deck building that there's no board, there's just your deck. Like the victory points are in your deck. The money that you're using to buy cards is in your deck. Everything, I play a card, it has 4 victory points on it. I take a 4 victory point token. It's deck building in its purest and simplest form, customizable to however you want it to be with all the expansions. So that's Dominion, where it all started, supposedly.
Yeah.
Now, I know a few of the other early ones like Star Realms and Ascension, the first iteration of Ascension. Those were both actually designed or co-designed by former Magic the Gathering champs, like winners of the early tournaments. And I think I've seen an interview with Rob Dotry of Wise Wizard, the makers of Star Realms and Hero Realms, that he actually was inspired to create Star Realms because he wanted an experience like Magic the Gathering, but without, basically you get all the cards. Like you don't have to go out and buy a bunch of cards or like worry about getting rare cards versus common cards and that sort of thing. So the barrier to entry is considerably less, while it does kind of replicate some aspects of the gameplay of some of those more collectible card games.
Yeah, and I think you kind of hit the the nail on the head there, is that you don't have to go beyond what's in the box. And again, you talk about the trading card games out there that you have to go out and buy packs, so you buy boosters and all those, or even the living card games that were popular like Marvel Champions or Arkham Horror or Lord of the Rings. You still have to buy extra packs in order to create a deck to build to bring into the game, and then whatever deck you build, you have to play against whatever the game is throwing at you. Whereas in this, it's usually you're starting out with the 10 or so basic cards that you have, and you're making those decisions from what you buy from the market. I think what Star Realms did really well with that is that a lot of these cards were like multi-use, similar to what you might see in Magic or some of those trading card games, where I could buy a card from the deck, and it could have some attack points, but it could also give me some currency to buy new cards from the deck. And in Star Realms, you have that nice little deck of cards, but you're trying to take out the other person's mothership base, basically, which usually you set it at about 50 points. But different cards that you build are attack ships. They could heal your base up a little bit. You could even put little side ships that are buffers to your base, so they have to take out some of those little side ships as well. And another cool thing that they do is they have like little factions. So you buy a green faction card, and then when you have another green card faction card that comes out, you see some synergistics and some allies and some different things, and that those kind of come out with
the more the same card that comes out from your hand for that round, the more abilities that you unlock, and then the chaining and all kinds of crazy stuff.
And that goes into making those smart decisions when you're building your deck. Like, hey, I could buy whatever card I want from the market, but I've been buying, green and red cards. Maybe I should focus on, there's only blue and yellow cards in the market. Maybe I just won't buy anything because that card's not going to be useful to me. It's going to disrupt the combos that I'm trying to do.
I would so Star Realms is probably my introduction to the more pure form of deck building games, and I've played a handful, no pun intended, a handful of others since. But I'm actually I actually recently went back to it and played a solo game. Because they have some add-on stuff that they came out with later that enabled you to play like scenarios against, just not even an AI, just scenarios for you to like play through. And I was like, when I first saw that, I didn't think. I thought it was just like, I'd probably never play this. Like it seemed kind of, but I'm actually very surprised at the flexibility of Star Realms and the different, and I'm getting more curious about some of the other play modes. And I mean, man, that game has some legs, man. Like that game has been around for a while, and like every convention I go to, Wise Wizard has a huge presence in the gameplay area where they're just doing Star Realms tournaments, and like they're giving away Star Realms cards, and like it's good stuff, man. It's good stuff. Like it's probably the closest thing to like a comfort food kind of game that I feel like I can always kind of fall back on whenever I need something quick and easy to play. One of my kids loves to play it with me. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. And Star Realms and Ascension around the same time are really kind of a turning point in the development of deck builders. So you have that core kind of system that Dominion created, but Dominion is really more of a Euro type game. You know, you can add in some cards that allow some conflict with your neighbors or whatever, but very Euro-y experience. It's about collecting victory points. And then Ascension adds in some like neutral monsters that the players are trying to battle, and then Star Realms, you're battling another player. So it takes that deck building idea, and how can we use it in an entirely different way? And then we're going to see, the games we're going to talk about for the rest of the time are going to just push that even further. So one mechanic can be used in lots of different ways.
Right.
Well, and even like an expansion of Star Realms, or really an evolution. They came out with Hero Realms as well, and it's more the fantasy version. But then you can have a starter character. So if you want to play as a sorcerer and then use some of the sorcerer powers and some of those things as you go through kind of that same gameplay, it adds some fun kind of fantasy elements and again another different twist where you get a little bit of some extra synergies if you take a certain route and some different powers if you're playing certain cards as you go through. So it's a lot of fun to see some of those, so much gameplay and some basic concepts.
Yeah, and they're fixing to deliver like a campaign mode that they kickstarted last year. Very super excited about that. Well, hey, we've talked about Dominion and Star Realms and Hero Realms. Let's talk about a few more straight deck builders while we're at it. Dan, I know I played one with you recently that it's on your no, you kickstarted it. We actually have a review copy that we need to get allocated, but I really enjoyed that one. That's For Glory. It's a more recent one. You got the Kickstarter. Tell us about that one.
Yeah, so For Glory is a gladiator deck builder, and you're a ludinista is what they call them, but you have your own ludus, which is a gladiator training area, and your goal is to get the glory, to train up gladiators, to get gladiators, to put them into arenas, and basically what you're trying to do throughout the different rounds before you actually go into combat is you're looking at buying different cards. There's 3 different markets that you buy cards from to put into your deck. There's people who can give you favor. They're the high the senators and the people who let you have more complex gladiators that you can hire for your gladiatorial team. You're committing gladiators and you're putting them into different arenas. You're getting tactic cards that you can put into reserve, or you can keep for when you go into the actually arena phase. And then when the bloodlust gets high enough in the arenas, there's enough people out there, the games start, and then it kind of switches and it turns into more of a head-to-head combat style system where you're playing cards that you have bought from your hands. You can even get some of those cards from the side deck, and you're really trying to outmaneuver in each of the 2 gladiatorial arenas that are fighting. And you get glory points, and you get different powers if you win in certain gladiatorial arenas, and different things come through. But it's a lot of fun, and it's really more of a complex game. When you talk about some of the basics of some of the Star Realms and the Dominion, this one is pretty chunky in terms of some of the concepts, and there's a lot going on. And even with the expansion that came out, you can actually build up different levels of the same gladiator over time, and it was just super fun to play, and I've gotten it to the table a couple times now, and I've just really been impressed with all the ins and outs, and that comes from just a smaller game company, and they've got another Kickstarter coming out, and so it's really fun to see some of their stuff that they've gotten going. So.
Yeah, I really enjoyed what they layered on top of those core mechanics. Like, it's a take I haven't seen in any of the other deck builders I've tried, and I think it's fairly unique in that.
Yeah,
of course, I don't really know that for sure, but.
So the deck building side of it, I would say, is it's not wholly unique. The three different markets is something you don't see a lot, and then
Right.
regardless of which market you buy to, it's going to your one deck. So there's some neat ideas there. But the deck building being kind of a preparatory phase to the other half of the game, and then you go through a deck building phase, and then a battle round, and then a deck building phase. It goes back and forth. But it's almost like planning and setting up for a skirmish game almost, where you're fighting in these three different arenas with cards, not miniatures. But really cool to see that you're like doing that planning and preparatory phase as part of the game versus like a skirmish game. If we were playing X-Wing or whatever other skirmish game, we would prepare all that ahead of time. We come out, we just do the fight. This you get to do the plan, build your tactics, everything, and then do the fight, and then refine it again with some more deck building, and then do the fight. Really cool just to see games where you get to create something in the game, which is what deck building is all about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I get to talk to the designer over at Origins last year. His name's Alex Wolf, Spielcraft Games, and he's just he's just really excited about it, and he wants games that are accessible, but that people are going to really enjoy. And so I think he thought about deck builder being that way, and he took a theme, and I think he came out with something pretty great. And they're going to be doing a whole different game with Cretaceous Rails, which goes a little bit to the different way from Gladiator.
That it was
same company as they go through. But Alex is a really great guy, and it was really fun to kind of hear a little bit about how he created the game and see some of his design elements too.
Awesome. It comes with little metal gladiator swords, which is awesome.
Yeah. It's pretty fun.
And it comes with metal coins too, right?
Metal coins, and if you really want to, there's a gigantic arena, with a play mat that takes up an entire table. But it's a lot of fun. Thematic.
Nice. For Glory, one of my favorite deck builders for sure. Yeah,
it's really good.
Now there was another more traditional deck builder that came out last year that. I know Mark and I both gravitated to quite strongly, and that's the Star Wars deck builder. Like this one for me personally took what a lot of what I loved about Star Realms and added just enough to basically added just enough that combined with the theme that it made it really, really, it hit my sweet spot. But yeah, you're basically playing Empire versus Rebels. It's pretty much totally scoped to the original 3 films and basically the stuff that has come out since that has that fits
Rogue
within
One,
that
it takes
era.
place in that time period.
Yeah, Rogue One. You've got Rogue One characters in it. And actually, I would say it probably doesn't go too deep into Return of the Jedi. It sticks more to Rogue One, New Hope, and Empire. But there's so much they can do with this.
There's no Ewoks.
Yeah, there's no Ewoks. Yeah.
Yet.
Now, I know they have already announced an expansion, which I know when this came out and I started playing it, quite a bit, the first thing that I thought of was like, this is begging for an expansion. I need more Star Wars, more Star Wars. I love that it added the Force track, the dark side and the light side, and that kind of enabling certain abilities on certain cards. And I love that you can snipe your opponent's cards from the market.
Yes, that's kind of the main innovation, or what makes the Star Wars one stand out, is the market. And you have neutral cards, and then you have Empire and Rebel cards. And if I'm the Rebel player, I can kill the Empire cards in the market. And it's just so fun and so devastating at the same time when the Luke finally comes out, and then the Empire player just murders him before you can buy him. It's painful, but it's so fun.
Yeah, I mean, I have a few little quibbles with the game. They're minor, and I'm almost certain that they're going to fix them with expansions. Yeah. Just because, like, yes, it does suck when that character that, like, it's your character, your main characters, and then, like, they get sniped. And now that can backfire because there are cards which enable you to dig through the discard pile.
The Jawa.
The Jawa. But yeah, it's, things just have to line up perfectly in order for that to work. I also love the, instead of bases you have bases instead of, like, not like the bases in Star Realms. They're more like planets.
It's not just a generic health tracker. It's like Endor and Hoth.
Yeah. And then those also lend abilities that are really nice. Like, one of my favorite ones is, your first neutral card that you play. After you play a neutral card, draw another card. Like, you can stack those draw another card stuff, like, and really, really wreck shop on your opponent with those.
One of the Rebel planets, I don't remember specifically which one, but it makes it so if the Rebel player makes the Imperial player discard a card, they take 2 damage onto their base. And then a whole bunch of the Rebel cards are all synergized around making the Empire player discard cards. So that can really come in handy. So you're behind and you whip that planet out and just chisel through the Empire, especially when the Empire can shield their planet with some pretty beefy capital ships, and then you can just bypass that with the mechanics. So, a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, this is a game that I've actually introduced to quite a few people, and gotten them hooked on.
It's good.
It's a good game.
And it's one that I keep in the car. My wife and I really enjoy it. And there's been some really good fan-made, like, solo modes too that have come out. And the Leaders one is probably my favorite. You can go to Board Game Geek and download it, but it has a really great AI mechanism and a cool little card that he's some great production that makes it really easy to play, like, a quick solo match, either side, whether you want to play as the Empire or the Rebels. And I would highly suggest that
so you don't mean playing as Han Solo? You mean actually playing by yourself?
An actual solo game when I have no one else to play a game with. So, yes.
Because, I mean, personally, I'd rather play a Chewie game, but
that's true.
So yeah, like, I think probably one of the more surprising things about that release last year was that it was kind of a throwback to the old traditional deck builders, which hasn't, like, the straight deck builders haven't been really big. Like, you still get some Dominion. I think Dominion even came out with a second edition, and they're like cycling through all of the expansions again. And then Star Realms, like I said, is doing the campaign setting. And then
Ascension
For Glory was a
out.
new one. Yeah. But mostly the emphasis on deck builders has been more on the hybrid side of things. And
for sure.
it seems like half the games that came out for a while were, had deck building mechanics, it hybridized with worker placement or something. Probably the two most popular, well, the three most popular ones in recent years have been the Clank games, Dune Imperium, and Lost Ruins of Arnak. But then again, like, you've got Undaunted, you've got like it's almost hard to keep track of what games have deck building mechanics these days, because so many of them do. And it's interesting. It's really interesting how they've integrated that into some of this stuff.
It's just, going back, I said this already, but it's just such a great mechanic, whether it's on its own or now baked into a larger system. But giving the player agency to create something while they're playing the game is just fun. It's the reason tile laying games are so fun, where you're building out Carcassonne or Gnome Hollow or whatever it might be, where you're laying tiles out and you create something. That's just fun. And then deck building is the same thing. I made this deck, and it performed well or it didn't, but I made it, and that's super fun.
Yeah, it's really risen as sort of like, a core base mechanic for just about any kind of game, in much the same way that tile laying has, or like worker placement. It's foundational, it's super cool.
Yeah. And I think different people are now finding it as like, how can I innovate on that same design? How can I innovate, the mechanic, and I think it just depends on what kind of game you're trying to play. Like, if we take a look at like Lost Ruins of Arnak and Dune Imperium, they kind of came out at the same time, and they were really involving some of that worker placement, resource management type of thing, where, your resources are no longer just on the cards. They're now things that you're putting workers out to try and do certain things, and kind of creating the synergies between your deck of cards, where you're placing your workers, and also, what your resources are, whether that's money or if it's water, it's spice, or if it's compasses and arrowheads and different things that you can do depending on what game you have. And I think those two games became super popular just because of the innovation. You got all these great mechanics that came with it. And even the expansion, they've expanded upon it. I think Lost Ruins of Arnak was a really great job of creating asymmetric starting decks that they started with, and the asymmetric players, which I think was probably one of the best expansions of in the last few years, the last two of those, just because those asymmetric means that I'm going to start building my deck, whatever comes out, a different way because of how I use cards. I might take certain actions to gain fear for one person, and add fear to my deck, which is, for some people, they don't want fear because they're negative points at the end of the game. But then I can use them to discard and do certain things because of the synergies that I have. So again, you start to see some of those little twists and those little things. And, with Dune Imperium, their whole, they have a whole combat thing where some of the cards can be used for resources, or I can use them for the combat. That's going to help me get ahead over here. So it's just really fun to see, how they take some of those base mechanics and incorporate the deck building mechanic into it.
Yeah, and I mean, those two are often spoken of in the same breath. Some people think their like similarity goes even beyond that. I'm not sure I totally agree with that. I think they're both very different games, not just thematically. But I will say this: both of them represent a very tight decision space, because you're I guess, like, for the worker placement aspect on both of those games, like, you're only given like two workers to place, and you have to be very, very careful about what you do with those guys. You have to take advantage of the spaces on the board, or you're gonna fall behind. And Dune Imperium also represents a very, very tight decision space, especially when you're it's not like Star Realms where like everything on the card you can do as long as like you have the synergies out. Like you can purchase and fight with the same card, whereas like Dune Imperium in particular, it's like you got to choose one or the other. You can't do both. And
Yeah.
By choosing one, you may very well undercut yourself on the other. And I think it's that friction that makes Dune Imperium like really, really good in my opinion. I haven't tried Uprising, but I did play and horribly lose a game of Dune Imperium over the weekend. I would say it's probably one of the games that I've played the most that I have consistently lost and been like, I need to figure out how to play this game better because I like it and I'm just horrible at it. So
the bad news is, Mike, you built that deck, so.
Oh, I know. I did. Yeah, this is what someone across the table told me. It was like, "Oh, don't blame the game. You built that deck." I'm like,
that was your choice.
Yeah, it's more to it than that. It's more nuance than just that. Don't give me that.
So one of the other kind of real innovations with deck building we've seen, I would say recently, but the first one came out in 2016, is John DeClair's card crafting system, which has appeared in multiple games now. The first one being Mystic Vale. Mystic Vale was a little bit more, I would say, more traditional deck building, but you're crafting cards. So the idea is, you have kind of clear cards that have part of a card on it or has an ability on it. And then you can combine cards and overlap them into sleeves that you're building a deck of cards that you've also built, which is, double the fun. But then Edge of Darkness, the second game using that system, took it a step further, and it's really like an adventure, almost like dungeon crawl-esque game. You're not moving around a board, but you're creating cards that are all about these heroes that you're sending out to battle monsters that are invading the city. And then my personal favorite and the most recent, Dead Reckoning, is a pirate sandbox game where you can do whatever you want to try and get points. But you're building your crew is cards that you're crafting. So your deck doesn't get any larger as far as the number of cards, but you're adding new abilities to the cards, to the crew members. So my captain starts out the game and he only has one ability, which is to start a fight with another ship. And then by the end of the game, he can start a fight, and he's adding 6 extra cannons to my ship and some extra cubes that I'm dropping into the combat board. And he also lets me draw a card. And then my bosun lets me build 2 buildings and, get money and drop off cargo. So you're expanding the cards as you go. And it kind of takes that, the purging and thinning mechanic you don't really have, because your deck is the same number of cards, but you're building the cards within the deck, which is kind of almost inverse of the whole deck building idea, where the deck doesn't get any bigger, but the cards get bigger. Really fun, outstanding game. Really kind of innovative take on the deck building mechanic.
Speaking of games that I lost horribly, I think I played that with Mark at like 2:00 in the morning during one of our 24-hour charity events, and I had a blast, but I did not do well in that game. But it's one that I would love to get back to the table. There's just something about you're right. It's like I get to make those decisions, and how am I going to upgrade this card so that I can, and sometimes you can create good synergies where somebody's a big attacker or they have like multiple abilities, so they're a lot more flexible depending on what space you are on the board. But again, you get to make those decisions, and sometimes it's based off of what's available on the market. But it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed Dead Reckoning, even though I lost.
And it takes the market and spreads it out over the map.
Yeah.
So the map is, you know, these islands you're sailing around instead of just a market on your turn and go, I'll buy this card, this card, this card. You're like, no, I sailed to this island because I want that card. And maybe, you know, you also wanted it and I got there first and now a different card comes out. So it really just innovates all around. The market is different. Building your deck is different. You build the cards. And on top of that, the cards are somewhat resources you're gaining, but mostly they're actions. It's not just get money and get attack points. The cards are the actions that you're taking within this pirate sandbox game to, you know, transport cargo, attack neutral ships, attack players, build out forts on the islands, explore. There's all kinds of actions you can do within the sandbox game that all runs off of this deck building mechanic underneath.
So I actually just had an epiphany moment where I actually realized that I think the first time I experienced elements of deck building mechanics was not in a card game, but rather a video game.
Slay the Spire.
Deck building. Yeah, right. Just not Slay the Spire. It was actually much earlier than that. But yeah, there have been a number of games that have included deck building mechanics in video games, and I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole, but you know, I feel like I have to acknowledge it because, you know, we're a site that does cover video games, and a lot of us play video games as well. But I believe. I mean, I wasn't a big fan of the franchise, but like, there's a Kingdom Hearts game that uses deck building mechanics. There's a Metal Gear game, Metal Gear Acid, that uses deck building mechanics. And then of course Slay the Spire, which ironically is coming to table now.
It's a video game that uses a board game mechanic, and now it's a board game.
Yeah,
and that's board game.
So, but the game that I first experienced it in actually predates Dominion, and like most of the information about this game talks about it as taking elements of collectible card games and incorporating it into the mechanics. But I think if you know, people look back at this game, they would recognize, oh, these are deck builder mechanics, more specifically than just CCG mechanics. And that's a game. It's a fairly obscure game for the original Xbox called Phantom Dust. And it was just one of those weird, quirky games that I just really, really loved, and I loved that aspect of it. And now I'm trying to figure out if I have a way to play it again, because I don't think I do. I think I gave my son my old original Xbox years ago, and I don't even know if it still works. But Phantom Dust is a very cool game. I believe it came out in 2004. So like it's very interesting. But yeah, I mean, it just goes to show you how board games and video games have long like fed off of each other and borrowed from each other and still to this day. And I think Slay the Spire is probably the perfect example of that. Now, that said, there is a digital version of Dune Imperium now, which I've been meaning to try out. I've heard it's very good.
I think the Marvel Midnight Suns video game also kind of ran off of a deck building mechanic as well. It's kind of XCOM style tactical game, but with deck building, or at least a card mechanic for doing the actions. It's everywhere.
But yeah, no, it's actually kind of amazing how everywhere deck building is. Like, and it's like, I think the main reason why I haven't tried Dominion is A, when it came out, that was like during my blackout period of tabletop games. Like, we don't talk about those years. But also it's like, something that has inspired so much, that has kind of stood on those shoulders, that when you go back to the original, it feels derivative of the newer things, or doesn't have the same kind of, you don't get the same kind of satisfaction, because the genre has evolved. And I guess that's why I'm kind of afraid to try Dominion.
I think deck building has evolved to be much more of a confrontational mechanic. Right. A lot of the games are all about we're fighting each other. Or, even like Lost Ruins of Arnak, it's a worker placement game, but we're still competing, in that shared space. I haven't played Dune Imperium, so I can't really comment there, but I know there's fighting going on. It's Dune.
Oh, yeah.
Versus Dominion is that much more pure form.
Fear is the mind killer.
Euro type game. So there's appeal to different people. If you you don't really like conflict, you can have no conflict at all in Dominion. I will say, having played Dominion, it does feel a bit dated. It is, it's an older game. One of the things that Dominion is all about is triggering those combos. So really refining your deck. It has a lot of mechanics that allow you to get rid of cards and really refine it to exactly what you want in there. But to the point where my turn might just go on and on and on. I could cycle through my entire deck because I've, made it so tight and combo centric that everyone else gets to sit there and watch me play every single card in my deck. That can really favor experienced players versus if you're, a new player playing with some more experienced players. It's one of those ones where you're really gonna probably not have a good time. You're gonna get crushed. Scores are not close in that game.
Yeah. Well, so I think the only thing that remains to be seen for deck builders is, where are we going to see them pop up next? Where are we going to see those mechanics pop up next? And I think the Star Wars deck builder game may signal Star Wars and even For Glory a bit, if it catches on, may signal a resurgence in more traditional deck builders too. I know I discovered Star Realms like years after it came out originally, and it's become like, a staple in my house. So,
and I think,
and there's clearly enough people have experienced these mechanics in the hybrid games that there could be some space and some more innovation from a more traditional deck builder going forward.
I do want to mention, because you just reminded me talking about Star Realms, one of the things we learned about at PAX is they're coming out with Star Realms Academy, is that what it's called? Or it's Star Realms but for kids. It's like intentionally designed to be for kids. So it takes the same ideas, and I think the cards are all just like pictures. They strip out a lot of the text and then
make it more simple based
in a way that kids can grasp it. They didn't have a copy or anything at PAX yet. They were just announcing it. So really excited to check that out and be able to introduce my kids to something like that, because deck building is my number one mechanic if I had to pick. I do not get tired of it.
Yeah, no, I don't know if I'd go so far as to say my number one mechanic, but I definitely don't get tired of it.
Yeah. And there's some great opportunities coming up in the next year. I mean, you've got, Clank is coming up with their Acquisitions Incorporated 2, which is the legacy game, which is semi-cooperative and doing some different mechanics, which Clank has been around, has lots of different iterations of kind of more of a family style. And then, even Undaunted is coming out with their new sci-fi game, which we talked about on our last episode, which is just it'd be interesting to see how they take that system, which is again a hybrid system, to space. And I love the Undaunted series, which is another great deck builder. But yeah, it'll be really really cool to see kind of some of those hybrid different elements, or even like you said, the plays on the classic.
Right.
Star Wars is a great meld of some classic mechanics that were introduced from earlier ones, and For Glory is a good spin on it. And so I'm really excited to see where it goes. I'm never going to be tired of it as a mechanic, because I think it's very ubiquitous, and it's pretty easy to teach. It's one of those that I can find can get to the table and people grasp it pretty easily. So.
Well, we may end up having another episode about deck building further down the road, just because there's so many deck building games and deck building hybrid games out there. Definitely keep your eyes on gamingtrend.com for more content about all of the games we've talked about. If you got some ideas for a topic, hit us up at Tabletop Throwdown at gamingtrend.com. And yeah, just keep telling your friends about the podcast. We're going to keep making these, and we're going to keep talking about stuff we love talking about, which is board games in general, card games, all kinds of games. So yeah.
See you next time.
Bye, guys.